Boston College linebacker Mark Herzlich was a superstar. So good that in his junior year, he made the All-American team. Then suddenly, at the top of his game, he was diagnosed with bone cancer.
My doctor at the time had told me not only would I never play football again, I'd probably never be able to run again.
Herzlich had been an All-American linebacker at Boston College, a fierce competitor on the field and off.
I made a goal in my mind. It was that I was going to beat the cancer and come back and play football.
Like Herzlich, Lance Armstrong credits not only top-quality medical care, but also positive thinking with beating his cancer.
You can't deny the fact that the person with a positive and optimistic attitude does a lot better.
In 2006, I was diagnosed with anal cancer.
Lee Fortson, a freelance writer from Colorado, was later diagnosed with 2 more serious cancers. But she has survived and is still fighting the disease.
Do you have any doubt that your mindset made a difference?
I have absolutely no doubt.
Positive thinking, a can-do attitude. That's the key, according to all these people and others who faced life-threatening illnesses. But here's a surprising and disheartening fact. What you think, how you think, may not make a difference.
It's dangerous nonsense to think that you can think your way out of cancer or think your way out of heart disease.
Richard Sloan has done extensive examinations of survival studies. He is a psychologist and professor of behavioral medicine at Columbia University Medical Center.
What do you say to somebody who thinks that they are the reason that they're still alive now because of their attitude?
I say, I'm very happy for you. I'm glad you survived. But for every one of you who said you were going to fight your way out of it, there are probably dozens of people who said precisely the same thing and didn't survive. One person's anecdote doesn't make evidence.
One of the major studies on whether mindset affects recovery was conducted by University of Pennsylvania psychologist James Coyne.
Well, first we asked simply, is there any relationship overall? Putting biology aside, does emotional well-being predict survival? And it was as close to not at all as you can get.
Dr. Coyne says the few studies that conclude otherwise are hokum and hype, all based on bad science.
It's disturbing at some level that attitude doesn't matter for survival, that there are some things you can modify in your life, but cancer is not one of them.
But what about survivors like Mark Herzlich, Lance Armstrong, and even Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, a gunshot victim whose husband, Mark Kelly, attributed her recovery to more than medical care.
Please continue to keep Gabby's thoughts and prayers in your heart. It is really helping.
She survived because of the path of the bullet. That's why she survived. If the bullet had hit something vital in the brain, she wouldn't have survived.
Positive thinking, of course, can lead to some good things. A better mood, increased happiness, and this is key, making a patient more willing to endure the rigors of mainstream medical treatment. Many of the participants in this Avon race to raise money for a breast cancer cure owe their lives to their determination to fight through the pain of chemo and radiation. LaWanda Fountain.
It's almost better medicine because if you have a good outlook, your energy is better, you feel like doing things, you don't have those sad thoughts where you're just like, having your own personal pity party and no one else is there with you.
But author Barbara Ehrenreich, who went through a grueling bout of breast cancer, resented pressure to be cheerful.
I didn't want to be told how to feel by somebody else.
She recovered, she says, simply through good medical treatment. But the experience made her realize just how pervasive the belief is that positive thinking causes positive results.
If things don't go well, if you get sick or if you lose your job or fall into poverty, must be your fault because you weren't sending the right thoughts out into the universe.
What's wrong with that attitude? A lot of people have it.
It's wrong because it's not true.
Her book, Bright-Sided, argues that the relentless promotion of positive thinking has undermined America. For example, she cites best-selling authors who guarantee all sorts of success to those who have the right attitude.
Jesus.
Or religious.
Wow.
They promise prayer can make illness vanish.
Wow. And one day when I went to go pray, the tumor wasn't there.
Is the alternative to positive thinking to be negative or pessimistic?
The alternative is to try to see the world as it is more. Realism, I would call that.
To me, reality is in the mind of the believer. That's what reality is.
Cancer survivor Lee Fortson did undergo traditional medical treatment, but she is also a true believer in other solutions, including belief.
A big part of my journey was working with my mind, and that was as much as anything.
Fortson interviewed a few dozen survivors of cancer, heart disease, MS, all who relied on alternative treatments, sometimes exclusively. She recounted their success stories in her book.
And the doctors who say, sorry, there's no evidence of that?
There is evidence. There's evidence.
For some individuals, I believe that we will identify hope and attitude as influencing tumor behavior.
Dr. Barry Boyd sees a glimmer of hope on the horizon. An oncologist and director of nutrition and cancer for the Yale Health System, he says that some preliminary studies show that how patients deal with stress may, just may, influence some cancer outcomes.
There is a part of attitude that may play a role, and we're still trying to understand that. Working to build hope and build optimism may, in some individuals, change the biology of their cancer.
But all of the medical experts we spoke to agreed on one thing. There is a danger to the relentless promotion of positive thinking as a means to ward off the inevitable. Psychologist James Coyne.
I think there's a lot of pressure based on the belief that if they're positive, that they'll live longer. And then the downside of that is that if they're deteriorating and they ultimately die of cancer, that they're somehow left being blamed. If only they'd been more positive. And I think that's a terrible burden for a dying person to assume.
But there's no talking survivors like Mark Herzlig out of it. For them, mind really does matter.
All I know is that for me, that mental toughness and positive thinking helped immensely.
Behind. There you go. Good. Always alert for that crossing receiver. Always alert.